When it comes to mixing and producing your dance drums, there are obviously many small details that you can pay attention to. So let's look at a few important ones in this video. We're going to jump back into the project that we worked on in my last video, but focus on the drum groove this time. And as you can see, we have some drums coming from MIDI tracks, from audio tracks, from loops, and together they obviously form the groove. To kind of clean this up and look at a few things, I just want to work with audio this time. So I'm going to bounce this to audio, because if we now zoom in here, you can tell, okay, the kick is pretty much right on the grid, but there is a little bit of space in here, right? It's not an issue necessarily, but it's just something good to know about. And if we look at the claps, for example, that we have in these two tracks, two layers, they have some slight different timing. And not all of this always matters. You don't always have to dive in and be super critical about the timing, but you should at least have that in the back of your head. So when something comes up and you feel like, okay, something is a bit off about this groove, you know that the timing actually matters. And I want to show you how much it matters. And for that, we're kind of going to bring up scope. And just so you know, this was the kick. Let's play it real quick. And then we had these two clap layers. This was like kind of a short, snappy clap. And then we had this layer, which is more like I like the reverb. So it kind of functions as a reverb. If you put these two together. Okay, together with the kick. Okay, so as you can see, since we're not doing any processing, we're getting this relatively loud peak, right? This is the kick without the clap, and this is the kick with the clap, and we get a crazy peak like that. Obviously, you can limit that later and stuff, but these things matter because depending on when you limit them and when you use your compressors, other elements will also be compressed, because a compressor obviously has a release time and an attack time and stuff like that. So it matters to kind of approach or attack these kind of things at the stage where they're happening. And let's say we're just dragging around the snappy clap a little bit. Let's zoom in here and let's say, okay, let's put it right on the kick. See how that influences how the peak has changed. Let's move that around a bit more. So it's changing quite a bit what happens. And we're just moving this like really milliseconds. Check this out. So here, look like this. And here we were like that. So that has quite an impact. And you should decide, okay, do I want to have something slightly sloppy, place the clap slightly in front of the kick? Now you're kind of snapping into the kick. We kind of want to manage these peaks because the kick in dance music, if you're making modern productions, should already reach close to 0 dBFS, right? And if you throw claps like this on there and you get these crazy peaks, the limiters and compressors will have to work quite a bit to cut things off at that stage. So maybe if we have two layered claps like this, it can already make sense to limit them by themselves. And a tool that I like to limit is actually a saturator. I call it Olean Saturator because I kind of did a rack where you can turn up the drive and it's already automatically gonna reduce the output, and you can flip through the different types. You can find this tool for free over in my sample shop. Feel free to check that out. But yeah, now if we look at the clap, we can drive it and reduce the peak quite a bit. So this would obviously be extreme, very extreme, but this is nothing. And this is distorting it at a point. So what I like to do is I'm going to get the kick. Okay. Timing sounds okay for me. Even a bit better. So now let's see, how much can I drive it without actually hearing that much of a difference? Okay, let's compare that. So we're losing some of the click, but I actually like that because the clap is a bit too snappy otherwise. So maybe dial it back a bit. So now we already took care of quite some of that peakiness. And as I said, the timing is something where transients can kind of happen. Something I sometimes do. This is over engineering at some points and oftentimes not necessarily, but it's something that you can consider. You can think, okay, where is the loudest part of the kick? Where do I not want the clap to be too present? And how do I place my my clap peaks in that way? Okay. If you put peak on peak, like this peak of the kick exactly with the loudest part of your clap, that's going to create a loud peak and kind of drive into the limiter. Maybe you can say, okay, here we have a cross point, and I'm placing them slightly like this. That's going to go a bit more friendly. And also, if you have several layers, you can say, okay, the clap timing is actually different. This is that loudest part. So maybe let's place it in a way that this part is not exactly lined up with this one. This has small differences. I have to admit that's true. Obviously, it can be overcomplicating things in the opinion of some people out there, but it's at least something that you can have in the back of your mind to be like, okay, the timing actually matters here. Let's move on to the hi-hat and bring that in there. This sounds good. In order here to mix it, I had this loop already recorded or it was out of a pack. And I felt like this hat was a bit too loud compared to the little hits. I wanted to bring them out quite a bit. So I just compressed it. For that, the release time has to be short enough. Maybe bring it up a little bit. Sounds good. Something that really matters, in my opinion, that people often overlook is obviously the drum groove sometimes dictating the groove a bit, but other elements are as well. So if we check out the bass and bring in the bass for this, I feel like the swing and the timing of these hats isn't ideal. Sounds okay? I feel like there's a bit too much swing there. And if we check out the audio of the bass, obviously the bass isn't playing that much at places, but here you have a part where the note is slightly swung. And the way things are grooving together, I feel like this hat is slightly late. So it would be quite some work to fix that for every single thing, but it's something to keep in mind in order to do that right the first time around in your productions and that stage. And I want this one slightly earlier as well. This is going to mess up some of the reverb, but this is just to show you what to look out for and how to listen to the timing. Maybe slightly later. I like that. So that was kind of the skeleton, like the foundation of the groove. Let's now bring in the different groove loops I had. And what I'm watching out here for is that I kind of want to feel, does it add to the groove? Does it work with the groove? Or are there some things which are just floating around? So let's bring that one in here. So something that I already like about it, it's not too loud. I turned this down quite a bit. So if that was too loud, it would sound like this. And another thing that I did here is, once again, I took out some of the transients with the drum shaper in order to just have the element sit back a little bit more. But some hits are still a bit too much. So these ones here, maybe bring this one in. And then this one as variation, but maybe this one out and this one. Let's listen. And I feel like here where the extra head hits are coming in, it's kind of overlaying a bit too much. Let's focus on this part for a second and bring in the next sound. This is just like a layer loop. So there are some hits in there which I like, and then some which don't work. Let's turn it up and see which ones really mess up the groove. Hear these small hits. Maybe this one not yet. Interesting. So if this is all the way brought down again. Nice. This one is not doing much actually, so I'm actually just going to ditch it. If you're mixing someone else's track, you might want to check back with them if that's all right. But sometimes in the flow of making music, especially if it's not like a crazy professional production yet, not every decision has to be like fixed in stone, or however you say that, right? So let's check the drum groove now. I like it. In context. Nice. Okay. Some of this was obviously a bit fast, kind of different type of video than what I do usually, but I think some of this might be interesting and helpful for some of you out there. Let me know in the comments if something is a bit unclear, or let me know what topics you would like me to dive into a bit more. And I'm looking forward to see you in the next coming videos, because I have a few good ones coming up. So, ciao.